This is Triggered.
And you will be. It's a Friday afternoon in 1993, a small Liverpool shopping center. Two 10-year-old boys are skipping school, shoplifting candy, and a tin of blue paint. In a few hours, that paint will be used to torture a 2-year-old to death. And the question this country has been asking ever since is the one we're going to put at you tonight. Like, we are going to put this on you, and we want to know. This is going to be probably a debate. We're going to go through the episode. And the question we have for our listeners is, were Robert Thompson and John Venables born evil? Or were they failed by every adult in their lives long before they failed James Bulger? Okay. This episode, you guys, I wanted to start with that because this one is going to give you a lot of feelings.
Well, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
It's a Saturday.
It is Saturday. I had an event last night, which was great, but I have such bad social anxiety. I really have to turn it up. So because of ADHD, and people who suffer from this also probably suffer from this, when you have like a very big social thing, you spend the entire morning almost frozen in place because you know that you have to be like Ashley's alter ego of like, hi, hi, hi. But really, Ashley's like real deep down person is crying inside.
The amount of times you were like, I can't do this. I can't do this. It was intense. It was intense.
Yeah. But then I got there.
I know you got, and you did great, and you looked great, and it was wonderful. And now it's Saturday morning. For those of you that don't know, usually Ashley and I record during the week just because like weekend is family time.
Yes.
And we get up really stupid early to record because my job starts every day at 9. So we have to have it done before that. But today is a Saturday. It's 8:49 a.m. We're chilling.
Coffee.
I got coffee. I got takeout coffee, which not an ad, but like, anyway,
I know.
We're just vibing.
And then we're going to the spa because what else do girls in our 40s do?
You know what? And you know this, I like have a lot of guilt leaving the house on the weekend because
I know
Matt works all week. We're tired at the end of the day and we're in the middle of renos, but sometimes you just gotta do the thing. I asked him, I was like, is there anything that you need my help with like today? And he was like, please go.
Aww.
Almost like like you say aw, but really it was probably like, he was probably like, it will be so nice to like do this alone without me handing him the wrong tool or.
Before we get into the episode, something really funny actually happened yesterday. So I was having like a little daughter guilt. So I'm like, oh my God, I haven't reached out to my mom in like 4 or 5 days. So I am blind. If you're watching us on YouTube, yes, I have to wear these glasses. Otherwise, I look like Mr. Magoo trying to navigate.
It's not happening.
I'm blind. So
yeah,
I'm like, oh, I should text my mom. Now, I didn't have my glasses on, so I just saw like M and then like fuzziness. I'm like, oh, there's my mom. So I click on it. I'm like, hey, Mom, I'm so sorry I haven't reached out to you. And, this week has been really hectic with the podcast, with work. We're just, busy people and the kids and all that. And then I get this like beautiful message back. And it's like, hey, baby girl, we're all busy. Like, give yourself grace. Like, it was the sweetest message I've ever gotten from my mom.
And you're like, oh my God,
away, Mom. I was like, wow, she took that really well. Like, so then I like go back to the message because that's not like my mom is like kind, but that's not her response.
No.
Like, if anything, that would be my dad's response if I was like,
Yeah.
"Dad, I am so sorry." So it was just so loving and sweet. So I was like I had a moment, I was like, "Oh, mom, you're so sweet." And then I look, it's fucking Matt. So he's like, "Mama's got you, baby girl, don't you and I was like, "I don't want to know that this is Matt. I'm gonna pretend this was my mom's response."
Yeah,
Like,
right? Like, best mom response ever.
oh,
He's got it
he's
figured
such a
out.
mama. Yeah.
You
We
know what,
laugh
Matt?
because Chantel's like, "I call him Pappy, and you call him Mama."
This poor man, he had no idea what he was getting himself into.
Oh. So this episode, you guys, it's gonna be heavy, and Chantel doesn't know it, which when I was like I kind of briefed her. I was like, "Hey, I wanna take a new angle. It's been, many, many years since this horrible case happened, and of course, I wanna look at the nature versus nurture, the psychopathy of the perpetrators. This podcast is never, and I want to like really put this out there, it's never about the fucking monsters that commit crimes. We respect and adore our victims like our own children, our own loved ones. And my take on this is not to diminish what happened to James Bulger. Like, this baby was tortured and his family went through hell. And that is not what I'm trying to do here. But the reality is, we also need to look at what happens when the perpetrators are children.
Yes, yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, there's so many angles to this case and so many opinions. And I have my opinions and I want to know what everyone thinks because this is a very rare occurrence.
Mhm.
So this is going to give us like a deep dive into children who murder and
Yeah,
what that says.
and you know what? We thought when you were telling me about it and asking me about it, we thought that maybe I didn't know about it because I grew up in a cult.
Yeah.
Um, but Matt didn't recognize it either.
Really?
Yeah, so I don't know if you like I think this may be more unknown than you think.
Okay, okay. Well, this
Mhm.
I know this story like the back of my hand because I remember it. And I remember this being so horrific and so
Yeah.
shocking. So this is going to be heavy. And I want to say that right at the top because this case is one of the most disturbing crimes of the 20th century. And I'm not just saying that for clicks or anything. I'm saying it because if you've never heard the full details of what happened to James, you need to brace yourself. And I mean brace
Mhm.
yourself.
Alright.
But here's the thing. I'm not just going to tell you what happened, but I'm going to tell you everything that went wrong. The parts the media got wrong, and then we're going to debate it together. We might be on the same side. I don't know what your reaction is going to be to this.
I mean, that's the whole beauty of this whole podcast is you don't
Yeah.
know what Chantal you're gonna get today.
But truly, this case has split people for over 30 years. And
Mm,
honestly, it should because there is really no easy answer. So, whatever side you land on in this debate,
mhm. Yeah.
I think that there's no easy way to come to that conclusion
Yeah, yeah.
because the two boys who killed James were 10. 10.
Oof, okay. Mhm.
But what they did was so calculated, so brutal. Like, as an adult, it's hard to process. So, the question we're putting to you today is were Robert Thompson and John Venables monster, or were they kids who did monstrous things? Or does that difference even matter? You know, like
Right.
were they monsters or did they just do something monstrous? It's not the same thing.
This is quite the debate.
Okay. Before we continue to talk about these kids, these monstrous little kids, I want to
Mhm.
talk about him. This cute little person, and he's the only person in the story who deserves to be remembered first. I want to start with
Mhm.
him because You could eat him like with your eyeballs. He is James Patrick Bulger. He was born on March 16th, 1990 in Kirby, England. His parents were Ralph and Denise Bulger. They were young. Denise was 25. James was in every
Mhm.
sense their miracle baby. Like they were over the moon by this little cutie patootie.
Yeah.
Before they actually had James, Denise had carried a little girl who was stillborn.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
then they got
man.
their rainbow baby James. So he, was this big, healthy, big blue eyes, light brown hair, the cutest little giggle, like everything you
Just
imagine
perfection.
a
Yeah.
cherub to be.
Yeah.
He was about a month away from his third birthday before his life was taken. Denise has said in interviews, and she's written about it in her book, I Let Him Go, that James was the kind of toddler who couldn't stop smiling. He was always making them laugh. He was a happy little boy. And it doesn't surprise me. First of all, kids love kids. So I was, at first I was like, why would he go with these two boys? But he just saw two kids that wanted to play with him, right?
And
That's the
and
innocence.
older kids.
Of
Like, that's
course.
cool. Like, even at 3, you know, you're
Yeah.
that's cool. You're like, "Oh my god, I've
They
been
want to play with
chosen."
me. Yeah, 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 yeah. So on the afternoon of February 12th, 1993, his mom took him to a bunch of little shops, just a regular Friday afternoon. They're running errands, pick up some groceries, stop at the butcher shop, the kind of trip every mom does every day with their little people.
So so many times, yeah.
And it kills me because all I can think of is he should have grown up. He should have been able to start school. He should have had a first kiss, a first job, a first heartbreak. He should be 36 years old this year.
Mhm,
He should be alive, and he's not.
mhm.
And we're going to spend this episode making sure you remember why.
'Kay.
Here is the part of this case that I think does get buried. Most retellings skip right to the moment James was abducted. But there is something that happened earlier that same afternoon that I need you to really sit with for everything and for us to understand the big picture here.
Okay.
Before they took James, Robert Thompson and John Venables tried to take a different little boy.
Oh, okay.
Same shopping center, same day, early in the afternoon. They approached another 2-year-old boy and tried to lead him away. The only reason that little boy is alive today is because his mother caught it. She saw what was happening, she intervened, and she got her son back.
Hmm.
And right away, I'm like, this is so important for this case. And a lot of retellings of this case, no one talks about it. And I'm like, wait, wait, wait. This changes everything for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, because then it was premeditated. It wasn't a spur of the moment thing where they were just like, "Oh my god, wouldn't it be fun if we did this?"
This was calculated. They were hunting.
Mhm. Okay.
It's very predatory, in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah.
And actually, one of the boys, and this did come out later in trial, admitted what their original plan was. They were going to take a child, lead him to the busy road right outside the shopping center, and push him into oncoming traffic.
I'm sorry. Okay, I still don't know the story, and that is insane.
Yes. So I want you to hear that because when people start saying they were just children, they didn't know what they were doing, this is the
Mm,
context.
'kay.
This was not a moment of impulse. This was not
Mhm.
a game that got out of hand. They
No.
went to the mall to take a child. They tried
Mhm.
once, they
Okay.
failed, and that didn't stop them. They tried again. So James
Hmm.
was not the first choice, he was the second choice. So back to 3:40 p.m. They are at A.R. Tim's butcher shop. Denise is holding James's hand, getting their shopping done, and she lets go to pay.
'Kay.
Something we all do. This is not like, "Oh my god, she let go of his hand." This is
My
every day.
my daughter was not maintained when we shopped. Like, at 3 years old, she was running around, she was testing things, she was poking things, she was saying hello to people, like, this is the no, this is not whatever happens is not Denise's fault because she let go of his hand for a second in a
Come
shopping
on.
center. Come on.
So this poor mother lets go of his chubby little cherub hand, turns around to pay, literally turns back around, and he's gone.
Yeah.
At 3:42, the security cameras at the New Strand catch the moment that has haunted the world ever since because you literally see two boys leaving the mall. One of them is holding the toddler's hand, and it's just baby James walking with these two boys. Excited, probably. He just made friends. It looks
Yeah.
so innocent too. Like if you don't know the story and you see this picture,
You're like, "Oh, look at these cuties."
it looks innocent. It looks like two
Mhm.
older brothers walking their little brother home. So people in the
Yeah.
mall that day, they didn't stop this from happening. They saw
No.
him. There are accounts where people are like, "Yeah, we saw those boys with that little boy." It looked everyone was happy, smiling. It was not like he was kicking and screaming, which makes it even more terrifying.
And this is just it, like, nobody would question that. They would look at it and be like, "Oh, like a little boy with his brothers," or she asked the neighbor boys to take care of him for a little bit. Was not a big deal. Ah, man. Okay.
It's horrible.
Mhm.
What followed was a 2.5-mile walk through Liverpool.
'Kay.
And here's the part that should haunt all of us, even 30 years later, because witnesses estimate as many as 38 people saw something during that walk.
Like what?
38 people saw James crying. 38 people saw blood and a bruise on his forehead. Thompson and Venables had dropped him on his head near a canal. People saw a tear running down his cheek. One witness saw the boys pull the hood of James's little jacket up over his head, trying to hide the injury.
Okay, I always like to put myself in the shoes, okay? Now, I'm a psychopath who does not give a fuck
No,
in the sense of if I saw that, yes, of course I would be like, "Hey guys, what's going on? It looks like he's hurt. Do you need
yeah,
an adult to help you?" At the same time, I wonder if the average person looked at it and was like, "Oh no, they must have been playing at the park or something and he's hurt. They're taking him home."
no, because I know me. I know me, and I know what I would have done because I have scooped up toddlers at the park. I see a hurt child. I'm picking that baby up. I don't care whose baby it is. Call me a fucking weirdo, but I'm picking that child up because this child is crying. And not only just crying, but he's crying for his mom.
I still okay, I get it. I know where you're coming from. I still think if I saw that, okay, maybe not me, but if the average person saw that, they would be like, "Oh no, he got hurt at the park. They're taking him back to his mommy."
Now,
Like,
witnesses,
because I don't think anybody's brain goes to, "Oh, these 10 year olds kidnapped him and are hurting him."
and this is it. And people did stop and ask if he was okay. People also heard them
Okay.
calling him a baby, almost mocking him, but they thought it was just two brothers being,
Yeah.
brothers. And the people that did say, "Hey, is everything okay?" The boys lied. They said that James was their little brother and they said they were taking him home, just like you said.
Okay, exactly. And you wouldn't I'm telling you, I know 100% I wouldn't do anything about that. I would be like, "Okay, make sure he gets home and you clean that up."
Yeah. Because your brain wouldn't go to these kids just abducted
Exactly.
this. It's crazy.
You're not going there in your head.
No. So after a 2.5-mile walk, the boys reach a railway line. It's not far from Thompson's house, and this is where everything gets fucking wild. Um, I'm going to give you a content warning here. The
Mhm.
next few
Okay.
minutes, we're going to describe what those two boys did to James at that railway line, and it's graphic. It's
Okay.
the worst thing I have ever read. And if you need to skip ahead, the
That's okay.
next, yeah, it's okay because honestly, I'm probably going to cry. This is
Mhm.
important.
Mhm.
This is important for everyone to know what was done
Mhm.
because we're going to talk about whether these boys should have been rehabilitated, whether they should have been released. And you can't really honestly deep into that before knowing what they did. And James deserves that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So right away, they start bullying this poor baby. They start throwing that blue paint on him. They threw it directly in his left eye. They then took turns kicking him, stomping on him. They picked up bricks and stones and threw them at his small little body. He is 2.
Mm.
They forced the batteries into his mouth,
Mm.
and then, and this detail to me is barbaric.
Mm.
They picked up a 22-pound iron railway fish plate. So it's a piece of railway equipment. It's
Okay.
humongous and it's
Mhm.
22 pounds.
Yeah.
It's as heavy as this baby.
Yeah, yeah.
And they used it to beat in his head.
Okay.
He suffered 10 skull fractures. In total, the pathologist would later count 42 separate injuries to his face, head, and body. 42. The pathologist actually who did perform the autopsy stood up in court and spent 33 minutes listing injuries. 33 minutes just going through a list of all the injuries. Many of these injuries were inflicted after he was stripped from the waist down.
Okay.
When they were finished, they laid James' body across the railway tracks. They weighed his head down with rubble so that when the train came, it would look like he had been hit by it. They were trying to make it look like an accident.
Hmm.
And a train did come, and James's
Mhm.
body was severed in half.
Okay.
2 days later, on Valentine's Day in 93, children playing near the railway tracks found him. I'm sorry, guys. Even though I've written this out and I've researched it, it's horrible.
It's horrible. It's
It's so
absolutely horrible,
horrible.
and, like, um, I think it's important for our listeners to understand that, yes, we talk about this every day. Yes, we see this all the time, but there are so many well, all the cases weigh on us, but there are so many that really impact us, and we don't wanna hide that from you guys because I think it's important for you to understand that we feel like every case we cover, there's now a connection. There's an invisible string, you know,
Mhm.
between us and the families and us and the victims. And it's okay. It's sad. This is awful. This is horrific.
It's a really this one really gets
Yeah.
me, and I've been really putting it off, but I want
Yeah.
okay. So I'm
All
gonna
right.
take a breath
Yep.
because this is one of the parts of the case that frustrates me the most. And it's
Okay.
something we have to talk about because the truth was a horror story, and there was
Mhm.
absolutely no need for what came next. In the days and weeks and years after James's murder, false claims started circulating. Tabloid headlines, chain emails, things passed mouth to mouth. The public was so shocked, so disgusted that the real horror somehow wasn't enough. And people made it worse. So I'm going to go through a list of things that, the tabloids said because, like, honestly, there were things that newspapers, television said that was actually not true. Like, this wasn't horrific enough. They had to make it worse.
And actually, this brings me to a really good point that I want our listeners to understand. We love it when you guys message us and say, "Oh, I actually read this about this case because," and I'm going to tell you exactly why. We live literally on an information freeway in
Mhm.
2026. And this happens in almost every single case we cover. Almost every single case we cover, some news outlet got it wrong. Some news outlet added their own twist to it. And so I'm glad that you're speaking about this because it's important to understand that every now and then it's all mud.
Yeah.
And we spend hours trying to sort that out. But this is exactly a good representation of a case where like people just start saying whatever they're going to say.
And how could you? And I just
I
want to
know.
call out the people that fucking decided that it was okay to make this story their own take because this is a baby.
I know. I know.
Shame
It
on
doesn't
you,
make
you
any
fucking
sense to me.
assholes. So,
Yeah.
claim one, the boys inserted batteries into James's anus. This is false.
Okay.
I've seen this claim on multiple news articles. The batteries were placed in his mouth. There were
Okay.
no batteries found anywhere else in his body. This was a rumor. It circulated for years. Um, this is fact checked and it is false.
Okay.
Claim two, boys cut off James's fingers with scissors. Never happened.
Okay.
The next claim, James was definitively raped. Now, this one is more complicated, and I want to be
Mhm.
careful with
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
because the pathologist did note that James's foreskin had been forcibly retracted.
Okay.
And um, I'm just going to give a quick with children. You don't retract a foreskin that's intact. Um, you don't pull it back like that. Parents know this when you teach your children how to bathe, things like that. I'm
Wash.
not going
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
Um, he had been stripped from the waist down, and there were investigators that believed that there was a sexual element to the attack, but the evidence of
Okay.
penetration was inconclusive.
Okay. Okay.
The prosecution insisted there was definitely a sexual element. So the prosecution came in and said, absolutely, there was something. The defense and the boys both denied this.
Okay.
And the court actually couldn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So legally, formally, it remains unproven.
Something interesting that we see in a whole lot of cases, and guys, I mean, we could do an entire 2 episodes on cases where this has come up. Men especially,
Hmm.
male especially, they will admit to murder, they will admit to torture, they will admit to all sorts of things, and the minute that they're like, "And did you rape the victim?" They're like, "Oh my god, no."
Suddenly, they have a moral compass.
Which blows my mind over and over again, so I'm glad that you brought this up, especially if there was potentially
Yeah, so
evidence that
it is.
led to it.
And I threw these false claims in because it
Mhm.
matters. It doesn't hurt the truth. It actually hurts people
Well,
because
yeah, of course.
James had a family, a mother.
Mhm.
Over the years,
Mhm.
multiple innocent men have been falsely accused online of being John Venables. One man from Fleetwood, Lancashire, sorry guys,
You're
I'm
doing
not from
great.
the UK, was identified by name on Facebook in 2010. He had to be moved by police.
What?
There was a threat to his life. So this guy had no connection to this case. He just kind of looked like someone who maybe could have looked like the kid that was incarcerated when he was 10. And it was the false reporting that caused this to happen. So this is why that matters. This is why I brought this up now. Because when you start spewing false information, it hurts people.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Another man was also misidentified in 2005. people were ready to murder this stranger because of a fucking false identity claim. This is why we have to be so fucking careful when you hear these claims, because the hatred this case has generated, it's
Mhm.
continued to generate. So
Well,
it's
yeah.
real and I understand it, but when we let the truth get distorted, we don't honor James anymore. We just create more victims. And that
Mhm.
was the point I had in that when you start, believing false information online, people get hurt.
Mhm. Mhm.
We're going to talk about these fucking kids. And I want to say something at the top, right off the hop, because I know this part is uncomfortable. Because we're going to talk about who Robert Thompson and John Venables were. We're not making excuses for them. There is no excuse for what they did. But if you want to have an honest debate whether these boys should have been tried as adults, whether they should have been rehabilitated, whether they should have never been released, you have to know where they come from, what their lives look like, who these people are.
Mhm.
Okay, we're going to talk about Thompson and Venables. So these two kids were already classified by social services as children in need.
Okay.
Both were already on the radar of authorities. So both came from homes that had been investigated for abuse and neglect. Now, Robert Thompson was the fifth of seven boys in a chaotic, violent household. His father had abandoned the family. His older brothers reportedly bullied and assaulted each other. Reports describe him as both a victim of abuse and a perpetrator of it within his own home. So, hurt people hurt people. And that is
That's right.
just a fact.
Yeah,
He was
that's right.
described, yeah. So he was described by his lawyer at trial as one of the most frightening children he had ever met.
Oof. Okay.
The lawyer compared him to the Pied Piper.
Oh, dear.
If you don't know who the Pied Piper is, go back in episodes, you'll find it. We covered it. John Venables came from a family where his parents had separated. He had learning difficulties.
Yeah.
He was very disruptive in school. He had been investigated for behavioral concerns, and his father had a pattern of renting violent films that he left around the house,
Okay. That's
and
disturbing.
yeah, and some of which these films had rented in the months before the murder later concluded that this boy was being constantly fed violent images.
Yeah.
So that's an
And that'll
important
do it.
piece, right?
Mhm.
Both boys were truant from school for weeks before that day, and no one was tracking it.
Okay.
So this wasn't just an one off. These kids weren't going to fucking school, they were just
No.
running amok. And here's where one university researcher said years later, and I'm paraphrasing, these were children who had been let down by the system around them long before they let down James. So this system let these kids down. They were
Mhm.
classed as children in need. The needs were not met.
Mhm.
And then they walked into a shopping center and did something so unimaginable that the country never forgave them and never asked the questions of who failed them first.
Ah, yes. Okay. Yeah.
So I want to say this clearly because I know how this lands. None of this is an excuse. James didn't have a choice in being murdered. James didn't have a chance to grow up. James's life was stolen. But when we get into the nitty-gritty of these cases, when we ask whether these boys could be rehabilitated, whether they were monsters or whether they were children failed by every adult in their lives, this is the meat and potatoes of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not black and white. Okay, we're going to go into the trial. I know it feels like we're jumping around, but all these key parts of what happened are very important. Robert Thompson and John Venables were arrested on February 18th, 1993, so 6 days after James was killed.
Okay.
Obviously, what broke this case open was someone recognized the boys and said, "Hey, I saw that little boy." They were walking with him. And then it
Yeah.
took no time at all for them to find the CCTV footage.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're done.
Yes, someone said these two were absent from school on that day, and one of them had blue
Mhm.
paint on his sleeve.
Oh.
Both boys initially denied it, and I actually listened to the recordings of the interrogation. They were released years and years and years later, and
Mhm.
it was really hard to listen to, and I'll tell you why. Because you're listening to this knowing what happened to this sweet little boy.
Mhm.
But when you hear these little voices come through, you're
Yeah,
like,
no kidding.
they're baby voices. It's very eerie because your brain has a hard time distinguishing like a monster from a child, right? So they're denying it, but the forensic evidence is overwhelming. Uh, the same blue paint from their clothes, so it was on both of their clothes, is all over
Mhm.
James's body.
Right.
James's blood was on Thompson's shoe.
Mhm.
A bruise pattern on James's cheek matched the imprint of Thompson's shoe.
Mhm.
Paint marks on the toe of Venable's shoe indicated, in the words of the forensic team, that he used serious force when he kicked James. So the jig is up. The kids are busted. They
Yeah.
know. But eventually, alone with his parents in the police station, Venables broke, and he does confess. And it's so crazy because I think I'm trying to look at every angle of this case, right? So I'm thinking,
Mhm. Mhm.
you've got the boys, you've got James, you've got James's poor family, you've got, all these players in this story. But then I took a moment and I thought about imagine being Venables' parent.
No, I can't. I mean, I don't wanna judge here, but it doesn't really sound like they were giving very many fucks about these kids.
Right.
Like,
So
why is your kid not in
after,
school?
well, right. So after all the evidence is collected and there's been, the news the news is on fire. People are
Mhm.
protesting.
No
Like this
kidding.
is this is a fucking wild ride, okay?
Mhm.
So the trial comes, and this is where things get controversial. And we'll come back to the controversial part of this when we start kind of debating what we think, because in England, the age of criminal responsibility is 10,
Oof.
and
Oh,
these boys
boy.
were 10. So,
Oh,
yeah.
boy. Okay.
So they were tried as adults.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So picture this. Now they're 11 because by the time the trial came, they turned 11. So these two boys, 11-year-olds, sitting on raised chairs that had been built specifically so they could see over the desk
I'm sorry. Okay.
because it was designed for grown-ups.
Mhm.
The judge in legal robes, lawyers in wigs, because we're in England. The boys accompanied by social workers and guards. Their parents were not allowed to sit beside them. So you've got these little kids in adult court on booster seats, like essentially. Like the image to me is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, these kids are arriving. There are around 500 protesters outside this courtroom, and they're screaming for blood. People are trying to attack the police vans that the boys are being, brought in on. Like it's
Yeah.
fucking what? And again, I'm like, what these kids did is fucking horrific. They are monsters, on so many levels. But what are you going to do? Attack a fucking 11-year-old?
Yeah.
This is so.
Uh, and,
Ugh.
like, yeah, because and maybe I'm rudimentary. Maybe I'm so simple that this just adds up in my head. But yeah, people would be so mad and
Mhm.
so disgusted that the only thing that would make sense in your mind is we gotta get rid of them. They can't be allowed to be here.
The whole thing challenges every part of me because
Mhm.
I have angry Ashley who is like, hang them by their fucking, like
Yes. Yeah.
stone them in the streets. But then I'm like, the mother Ashley is like their children. Like there's so many parts of me.
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
conflicted. So the trial lasted 17 days and this stuck with me because in those 17 days, less than 30 minutes was given to examine the boy's mental state.
Pardon me?
Less than 30
Like, by
minutes.
a doctor?
Mhm.
Okay, I mean, to be fair, it was the 90s. We weren't there yet. At the same time, 30 minutes? Are you
30 minutes to
serious?
determine whether two 10-year-olds understood what they had done.
And what was the finding of this?
Stay tuned. The jury took 6 hours to deliberate, and my dream in life is to be on jury duty. I would never want to be a jury in this case. This sounds to me like a fucking nightmare.
I need
I
to
don't even know
totally
how
burst.
they came to an agreement because this is so
Mhm.
fucked up to me. So, on November 24th, 1993, Robert Thompson and John Venables were found guilty of the abduction and murder of James Bulger because, yes, 100% yes.
I gotta go back to something here. You're
Mhm.
never gonna be on jury duty, and I hope you understand that.
I know. I
Because
know.
the minute that we're like, "We have a true crime podcast," they're gonna be like, "Goodbye."
Toodaloo, motherfucker. I'll be like, but wait, but wait.
Yeah, it's not happening for
I
us.
know.
Anyway, continue.
So, yes. So they were found guilty, obviously, because they are guilty. They
Yes.
actually became the youngest convicted murderers of the 20th century in modern British history.
Okay.
Justice Justice Moreland sentenced them to be detained at Her Majesty's pleasure with a minimum tariff of 8 years. And his words from that day have been quoted ever since. He said, so this is a direct quote, Robert Thompson and John Venables, the killing of James Bulger was an act of unparalleled evil and barbarity, which it it was.
Well, absolutely, I agree.
And then after the sentencing, the judge took a step that arguably changed the course of both boys' lives forever. Now, you have to remember when we are prosecuting children, you're not allowed to put their names out in the public. There's anonymity for children. That is the
Mhm,
law. That is
mhm.
the way it is. He lifted the anonymity order. He released their
I
names
love the way
and
you
their
say that word.
anonym anonymity. Guys, just you know what I'm saying.
Anonymity.
I won't say it
Anonymity.
again.
I know you won't. No,
Not
I love it. I love it. Every
that's
time
my
you say it,
word.
I'm like,
Hey, hey, hey. He released their names and their photographs to the public. And up until that point, they had only been known as Child A and Child B. But after that day,
Okay.
every newspaper in the country had their faces, not just in the country, in our country, all over the world.
Well, yeah, of course.
Their school photos are released, like their names burned into the public's consciousness. Like these kids were everywhere. You couldn't go to the grocery store without seeing them. Like we didn't have social media back then. And I remember seeing the faces of these children.
I was gonna say, but we had the Inquirer.
Oh my God. I loved the Enquirers. It was
And
such
this
a
would have been
bullshit
all over
tabloid.
that. Yeah, this
Oh,
would have
the
been
National
all over
Enquirer.
that.
What a bunch of dicks over there they were. But anyways, um, this decision is actually one of the most debated moments in British legal history.
Yeah.
So, the public assumed these boys were going to prison,
Mhm.
adult prison, locked up forever.
Mm, mm.
But let's think for a
Well,
minute.
no.
We're not sending children to adult prison. Are you fucking insane? Like, no,
Every child predator would be like, it's Christmas."
right?
Like, come on.
So, most of the public on team these kids deserve to die
Yeah.
were literally expecting them to go to adult prison.
Mhm, mhm.
And so this is where people got infuriated, and it still infuriates people. So Robert and John were not sent to adult prison. They were sent to secure children's homes. And they didn't send them to the same one because, like, this isn't
Duh.
fucking sleepaway
Okay.
camp,
Yeah, like, you're not having a sleepover.
right? As if. So Robert was sent to Barton Moss Care Center in Salford, just outside Manchester. It's officially called Eccles and Earlham Children's Resource Center. And people who live nearby just call it the Bad Lads Home. I'm like,
God.
English. Oh, that's the
You
Bad
know
Lads
what?
Home.
I love you guys.
I love them.
I love you guys so much.
They can make anything sound politer.
The Bad Lads. Oh my god. That's what that is Mike and Matt's new nickname.
The Bad Lads.
The Bad Lads.
So, this place is a modern brick building surrounded by high security fences and security cameras. It's tucked down a country lane from the outside. It
Okay.
actually does look like a school, but a school that has fencing and you're not getting out.
And Bad Lads.
And Bad Lads.
Mhm.
John Venables was sent to Vardy House, an 8-bed unit inside Red Bank, secure unit in Newton Lee Willows in St.
Okay.
Helens, Merseyside.
Okay.
Here's the kicker. Red Bank is only about 10 minutes or 10 miles from where they killed James.
Mm.
They kept him in the same county. And I don't know. I think, part of your punishment should be that people know what you do. But at the same time, I'm on the fence with that one as well.
Are you? I don't care.
I don't know
I don't
because
care at
I
all.
think that,
It's a secure building. What are they
yeah,
doing? Like, they can't get
yeah.
to him. No, I don't care at all.
But these institutions are not prison. And I want to make that very clear.
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
designed for serious juvenile offenders,
Mhm.
but they're modeled around rehabilitative. So the kids inside receive education, they go to school, they have
Mhm.
therapy, they have group, individual sessions, skills, training, life skills, work programs, all of it.
Mhm.
And as part of that rehabilitation program, the children, including Thompson and Venables, were taken on supervised outings, trips out into the community with staff, educational visits, social reintegration exercises. The point of the institution was eventually to release these boys back into society, so they were training them how to live in it. And here is where I was like, he shouldn't have been allowed in the county where these things happened. Because let me just fucking to paint a picture. You're out. You're Denise. You're out and about trying to piece your life back together in this nightmare you're living. And you see that motherfucker out there. I don't think it's right.
I it's so weird. I don't care
I care for
because
her. I
they're
care for the family.
look, here's the thing, okay? I think what Denise went through and what his family went through is the worst possible thing that could ever happen.
Hmm.
I don't think once a year seeing one of these children who did this, I don't know. I don't
For
think it
me,
makes it any worse.
I think Denise Bulger is burying her 2-year-old son, and these boys are going on fucking field trips
I
to
know.
the museum. Like, fuck
I know.
off. I'm not okay with that. People, please don't be mean to me. I'm arguing on both sides for a second
Mhm.
because you have to look at all angles of this. The people who designed this system would tell you that this system works. Children's brains aren't fully formed. So if you lock a 10-year-old in a cage for life, you create a worse criminal. And
Right.
rehabilitation lets them have a chance of stopping the cycle of them becoming worse criminals later on. And I try and look at both angles here. I really do. I'm like, okay, is it worth locking 10-year-olds up for the rest of their fucking life? Because they're not developed. But then I also go back to, but what if they do it again? What if you can't rehabilitate somebody like that?
I think it depends on how they were in the time that they were away at their rehabilitation center. I think that weighs heavily on this because they did a horrific thing. And
Mhm.
maybe this is just my bias and maybe this is just the state of where I'm at, where I'm so unimpressed with our justice systems.
Yeah.
But they let men out men out every day
Mhm.
who have, like, stabbed their wife, and they end up going free, or they end up on parole, and they reoffend. This happens every single day.
Yep.
So, for 2 10-year-olds, uh, I don't know. I really don't know.
I struggle with this so much because I can see both sides of the coin here. I see that they're kids, but then what they did changes my opinion. So when I look at them as just children before the crime was committed. I'm like, they're babies. Then I see what they did, the calculated, way that it was done, the horror, the
Mhm,
torture, and I'm like, fuck these kids. They do not deserve a chance to ever hurt someone again. But then I go back. So I am so flip floppy on this, guys. And the minimum tariff was 8 years. So they were
mhm, mhm.
sentenced a minimum of 8 years. And if they didn't show psychological assessments weren't coming back
Yes.
clear, if they were, showing any sign of aggression, of reoffend, like even a tidbit. But according to staff, at least Venables was making good progress.
Okay, okay,
Okay, because I know obviously this before I'm going to tell you. This is, I think, what fucked my brain up. And this might fuck you up too,
okay,
because I'm going to tell you what people say that knew the boys after the fact.
okay.
So, this is where, if you only ever read the horrific acts and knew what they
Mhm.
did, you have a picture of your most horrible nightmares coming to life. And then when you realize that they're kids. So, let's go. The people who actually lived with these boys day in and day out for 8 years, like the staff at Barton Moss and Red Bank, said something that was completely different from the picture of the monsters that we have in our mind. Multiple workers and former staff have spoken publicly. They have said, and I'm going to summarize it because it's a lot.
Right.
So they have said consistently, all of them across the board, that the boys they knew were not violent, were not aggressive, were not threatening to other children or staff. They did their schoolwork, they responded to therapy, they participated. In the year 2000, the year before Venable's release, a psychiatric report described him as posing only a quote, trivial risk to the public. Trivial risk. The chances of his successful rehabilitation were rated as quote, very high. And basically they were saying like, he's rehabilitated.
Great.
Robert Thompson, who had been described at trial by his own lawyer as one of the most frightening children he'd ever seen, was reported by Barton Moss staff as compliant, intelligent, hardworking. He earned qualifications inside the unit. He participated in therapy. He was, by every internal measure, rehabilitated.
Him, I'm a little bit less convinced. For an
Really, eh?
adult to say for an adult to say he is the most terrifying child I've ever met? Hmm, why?
All
I
right,
guess
let
I
me
would
add
need
it.
to understand why.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll add another piece. Other children who served time at these same institutions, kids who knew Thompson and Venables personally, have said later in years that the boys they shared a unit with were not the boys the public imagined. They were quiet,
Okay,
withdrawn, and they were just there doing their job.
okay.
I want to be really careful here because none of this means they didn't do what they did. So this doesn't absolve them. I'm not saying that now that they're fucking making their bed and participating in chores, it absolves them from anything because the crime is the crime and James is still dead. So I'm not absolving that. But it does raise a question. because the people who actively lived with these boys for 8 years said they were not monsters. The general public, the tabloids, the protesters said they were monsters. So who's right? The people who read the headlines or the people who knew them? And then it gets more complicated because I'm going to tell you what happens next. Like, this just fucking never ends, I'm telling you. So in June of 2001, the parole board reviewed both boys' cases and recommended that they be released on a life license.
Okay.
They were 18. And this is where Dame Elizabeth Butler Sloss, president of the High Court's Family Division, made one of the most controversial legal decisions in modern British history. She granted both boys a worldwide injunction. New identities, lifelong anonymity,
Anonymity.
a permanent ban on any media outlet anywhere in the world publishing their names, their faces, or their locations. Her reasoning, in her own words, and I'm paraphrasing, was that the public hatred for these boys was so extreme, the desire for revenge so strong, that some people would absolutely engage in vigilante violence of their own if their identities were ever revealed. They would, in her opinion, be killed.
Okay. Welcome to the real world, boys. Watch your
Right?
back.
So the
This
terms
is
of their
no.
I know. I know. So the terms of their release were very strict. They could not contact each other, not ever. They could not enter the Maryside region. Thank fuck. They had to report regularly to probation officers, obviously, and they were on lifelong supervision. Any breach, anything at all, meant they would be sent straight back to prison. They lost all trace of their Liverpool accents while they were inside. They emerged from those 8 years as completely different people on paper. Like these two went in as little murderers and came out with new identities, new names, government issued backstories, and they were released into Britain with the entire country looking for them.
No. No.
And the public was furious. They knew they were released.
I'm furious.
They were protesting. They were, passing around petitions, tabloid front pages screaming that justice had been denied. Everyone was upset, and of course they are. They don't deserve. This is same with the Karla Homolka thing for me. When you do something horrible, I don't care that you were 10. I don't care if you're an adult.
No.
Um, it doesn't take away the fact that you did those things.
And again, this is like the new part of their life. Like, welcome to adulthood. We're putting you out in the world. If I were you, I would find some small town, not even in the UK,
Yeah.
because you took James. Um, this will follow you the rest of your life. You don't get just because you were a good boy for 8 years. And we have to remember too, it doesn't sound like they came from very good homes. So them being in these rehabilitation homes was probably a significant step up from their actual childhood.
Yes.
So, no, you got to go out as yourself into the world. Sorry.
Okay. So we're going to get into something because the real question here, for me, anyways, is nature versus nurture. Are you born
Mhm.
a monster? Can you be
Mhm.
rehabilitated? There are so many parts of this. So, 25 years after the release, what happened? Where are they? What's going on? And this is where these two stories diverge so sharply, it almost makes the case feel like a study on how rehabilitation works for one
Mhm.
person and how it doesn't work for the other. Robert Thompson has not reoffended, not once in 25 years. He has, according to multiple sources, been in a long term relationship with a man for years. His
Okay.
partner reportedly knows his real identity. He's
Okay.
living, by all accounts, a quiet, anonymous, law abiding life somewhere in the UK.
Okay.
If you believe the people who knew him at Barton Moss, the staff who said he had been rehabilitated, then Robert Thompson is the success story of this case, right? A child who did
Mhm.
something monstrous, who served his time, he got the help he
Mhm.
needed, and who has caused no further harm to anyone. It looks like the treatment was successful.
Mhm.
But the police detective who arrested him, Phil Roberts, said in 2018 that he believes Thompson was actually the ringleader,
Okay.
that Venables followed Thompson's lead. He called the two of them a match made in hell. He said, in his opinion, they would have struck again if they hadn't been caught, which I do think so.
Of
I think,
course. Of course.
yeah,
I don't doubt that for a second. But look at Thompson.
right? 25 years, clean record suggests the opposite.
Amazing. It worked. Good for you.
John Venables. So the psychiatric report from 2000 that said he was a trivial risk with very high chances of rehabilitation, that didn't age well.
Okay.
In February 2010, just 9 years after his release, Venables was recalled to prison. Justice Secretary Jack Straw refused at the time to say why, citing public interest, but within days the truth came out. He had been arrested for possession and distribution of indecent images of children.
Oof. Okay. Not cool.
He was
Goodbye. That would be it for me.
lock him the fuck up and throw
You,
away the key.
you had a chance to move past what you did as a child and you fucked it up. You're gone. Goodbye.
Oh bitch,
Forever.
I am so not done with this. You are going to be
Mm,
so fucking mad. He
mhm.
was only given 2 years and he was released on parole in 2013. And
Here
then
we go.
in November 2017, he was
Mhm.
recalled to prison again,
Mm.
doing the same
Surprise.
bullshit, possession of
Yeah.
indecent images of
Duh.
children.
Oh God.
But this time, he had something else, Chantal. Do you want to know what that was?
Mm.
He had created a pedophile manual, instructions on how to groom children and avoid detection.
Goodbye, Jonathan. You're done.
Death
Never
penalty. I don't
again.
fucking
You're
care.
absolutely like, no, you're gone. You can never come out again.
He pleaded
You
guilty in
are
February of
broken.
2018.
Hmm.
Guess what he would, you're gonna fucking, guys, this might be it. You might see Chantel's head explode. Spontaneous
Hmm.
combustion because he was only sentenced 3 years and 4 months for that.
What is wrong with?
Hmm.
Well, I, yeah, I, I'm speechless. I cannot understand. And don't get me wrong, what they did as children is horrific and horrible. And I don't want James to be forgotten in any of this. As an adult, if you are doing child porn shit, you gotta go. You can't be here anymore. You're broken.
So thankfully, although he was sentenced 3 years and 4 months, he is, as of this episode, he is still in prison.
Mhm.
But here's my thing. Is it even worth releasing these two boys? Because yes, one, as far as we know, hasn't reoffended, but the other
Mhm.
did. So we have to look at the big picture here. And I'm like, is it worth the risk of putting any child at risk, any human at risk for the
Mm.
sake of one person?
Oh, this one's hard.
It's
This
so
one's hard.
hard.
I think I still stand on yes, they should have been released after they were rehabilitated. They were 10 years old. They were babies themselves. They did a terrible thing. And I don't, and I know that my opinion will probably enrage people because it's like, look at what they did to James. And I get that. I do. I really do. I understand it. And I just think from a standpoint of what do we do here? Yeah, they probably should have been released.
Mhm.
And
But
it's awful that Jonathan carried on, but
here's
the
a
other boy
piece.
didn't.
There's a piece to this,
Mm.
okay? So, while John, and this came out years and years later, was in Red Bank, the place that was rehabilitating him,
Mhm.
allegedly had a sexual relationship with a female member of staff. So he was supposed to be getting the rehabilitation and he was being molested by a fucking worker. So, did that have an impact on his rehabilitation?
Well, of course it did.
Or would he have done it anyways because he's a fucking monster?
Of course it had an impact on it.
Yeah.
Duh. Like I can't
Isn't this
of course it
horrible?
did. Of course it
It
did. And that actually, you telling me that makes me question
Oh,
everything they said about them
I know.
because I can't take it seriously now. Now it's like, I don't believe you. I don't believe that they were fully rehabilitated.
No.
I don't believe that they could have been released into the public properly. I don't believe it because you're full of shit because you were touching children. So
Yeah.
there's all your credibility right out the window.
So this is probably going to be one of the craziest debates because we're going to release photos of the kids, obviously.
Mhm.
The photos of them being booked, and I
I know
sent
it's crazy.
it's crazy. They're babies.
They're
And
babies.
you're just
Th-
looking at this and you're like, what the fuck? It's so mind fucking boggling. I'm
yeah.
like, are these kids evil fucking humans that came on this earth?
Mhm. Mhm.
And then that other part of me is like, James. Like, James's mom has to live in a world where she doesn't have her son, but she also has to live in a world where these two fucking monsters got to go out and experience things and have relationships. And
I know.
in fact, Denise is still fighting.
Aw,
She wrote a book.
what a mama. Yeah.
She's an amazing mother. She founded the James Bulger
Mhm.
Memorial Trust. Um, it's a charity that provides holiday and respite for families of disadvantaged young people. In
Mhm.
March of 25, on what would have been James's 35th birthday, she launched a victims helpline through that trust. She literally turned the worst thing a person can go through into a force of good. And she has fought every single day against
Yeah.
a system that essentially failed her and failed James.
I
She
was gonna say that shows me like what a badass. What
she's a
about it?
badass. I
Because
love her.
she didn't start a not-for-profit that focuses on, child safety out in public. She started something because she knew that the reason that those boys did what they did to her son was because they weren't taken care of at home.
100%.
That's incredible.
She still attends every single one of John Venable's parole
Yeah,
hearings because he still
good.
tries to get out. And she
Yeah, yeah.
speaks and she still fights for her baby. And she is a mom who is just like,
Mm.
I'm like fangirling over Denise. She's incredible. So really, we are still in the thick of this, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
Like we've laid out the case. Um, I want to know, we're not picking sides. I
I'm
want
not I don't really have a side. I think here's the thing. This was tragic in every sense of the word. It was tragic for the two boys. It was tragic for James. It was tragic for Denise. It was tragic for James's whole family. It was tragic for the community. Like there's no I'm not comfortable sitting here being like, "Oh, let's pick a side." Like there are no
no.
sides. Everyone lost here.
Yeah.
Everyone.
So I want to ask our listeners, and
Mhm,
this was the part of this episode that I want to know where everyone stands because I'm
mhm,
curious.
mhm,
So let's start with the side that says they should have been tried as adults, given full life sentences, and never released.
mhm,
So, first, and this is the strongest argument, the crime was calculated. We covered this earlier. They went to that mall to lure a child. They
mhm,
tried first
mhm.
with another child and they failed. They tried again and succeeded. They lied to dozens of witnesses during this 2.5 mile walk. They created a story to cover their tracks. They tried to cover the murder up as an accident. This is not a moment of impulse. This is planning. This is forethought. This is calculation. Second, they knew what they were doing was wrong. The psychiatric expert who evaluated them, Dr. Vizard, was asked at trial whether the boys understood what they did was wrong. And she said, and this is in the transcript, that
Mhm.
on the balance of probabilities, she could answer with certainty they knew. They both were aware what they were doing was wrong.
Well, yeah.
Third, Venables proves rehabilitation does not always work. He was released,
Mhm.
he was placed under lifelong supervision, he was given a new identity, a fresh start, he had support, and he is still a predator. Fourth,
Yeah.
releasing convicted child murderers with new identities means the public can never protect themselves. People who live near these men don't know what they did or who they are. I feel like the state did decide that the killer's rights to anonymity mattered more than the
Anonymity?
public. I hate that word. They had more rights than the public did safety. And fifth, the most fundamental argument of all, James Patrick Bulger was 2 years old. He had no voice, no defense, no chance. So justice for James means a sentence that reflects the horror of what was taken. 8 years for two kids is not enough. This is 42
Mhm,
injuries to a toddler. Okay, so that's side one. Should he have been locked away? Both of them. Should they have just never been released, save all this bullshit? They would have just been locked away. We wouldn't even be talking about this because they'd be fucking rotting in a prison cell somewhere.
mhm.
Or are you on side B, my lovely listeners? They were children and rehabilitation was the right call. So on the other side, the side that says they were 10, the system did the right thing. First, the age of criminal responsibility in England is 10.
Mhm, mhm.
The rest of Europe, it's between 14 and 16. In Sweden, it's 15. Germany, it's 14. In Belgium, it's 18. So are they too young to be held criminally responsible at 10? Should they have been tried in adult court? Second, children's brains are not fully developed. Modern neuroscience tells us that the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that is responsible for impulse control, moral reasoning, and consequence prediction, is not finished developing until the mid 20s. Third, boys came from abusive, neglected backgrounds. They were already classified as children in need by social services. They had been failed by every adult. They were victims before they were perpetrators. Obviously, it doesn't justify what they did, but it does explain how a child becomes capable of doing it. Fourth, the professionals who actually worked with them said rehabilitation was working. 8 years of staff, therapists, educators, they said on the record that these boys were not violent inside the units, that they were responding to treatment. Now, the 2000 psychiatric report said Venables was a trivial risk,
Mhm,
but had a
mhm.
very high chance of rehabilitation.
Mhm.
I think if there's any doubt, even if it's like 1%, don't release
Yeah.
them. If you can't say for certain, then no.
Yeah.
Fifth, Robert Thompson is proof that it can work. 25 years, zero reoffending acts, zero. He served his time, he did the work. He is, by every measurable standard, a rehabilitated person. Sixth, putting two 10-year-olds in an adult prison would have created more dangerous criminals, but like, yes. So no, like I don't, that's not even a reasonable, you can't put children in an adult prison because
Yeah,
there's no
no.
rehabilitation. Like,
No,
no.
I don't think so, no.
They would never survive that environment. And
Mhm.
finally, releasing their names publicly may have actively hurt rehabilitation. They were child A and child B during the trial. After sentencing, the judge lifted the anonymity. Their faces and names were on every newspaper in the country, and from that moment on, normal life was impossible. Um, Researchers argue that public naming these boys kind of threw off the meaningful rehabilitation because it makes it almost possible for them to move forward. And that may have contributed to Venable's later offending, also being molested in your
Yeah.
rehabilitation program. Okay, so I'm going to leave this with everybody. We're not telling you what to think. That's not what this is
No.
for.
No.
We
No.
are leaving you with questions. We want to
Mhm.
hear from you. We want you to comment. We want DMs. We want voice memos. Tell us where you land on this. You know, um, I want to know, is there an age too young to be tried as an adult? Where's the line here?
Mhm. Mhm.
You
Very
know,
interesting. Very interesting.
eh, eh, yeah. So I want to end this where we started with James. James was born on March 16th, 1990. He was a bundle of joy of two young parents who had already lost a child. He had blue eyes and light brown hair. He laughed all the time. He should have grown up. He should have had his first day of school. And he should have been 36 now. So this was heavy. This was long. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
it was a lot to this is a beast of a
Yeah, it's
situation.
a lot. Yeah.
So if you want to join in a private conversation with Chantal and I and the rest of our crew, please subscribe.
Mhm. Yes,
Um,
please. We're having so much fun.
we talk all day, every day. It's great. Um, and we have a great community of people who want to continue these conversations with us. So please subscribe, join the chaos. We'd love to have you. And for those who've decided to just stay on our main pages, we're on YouTube. We're on every
Mhm.
place you get a podcast, and we want to hear from you.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Well, thank you so much for telling this harrowing story, and we thank you all for listening. We love you, and we'll
Yeah.
see you all on Friday.
Friday. Bye.
Bye.